This comes soon after the Sunderland's deal with Armand Lauriente fell through, with this a solo player already flying over to Portugal, seemingly with the deal already done before things collapsed. There's lots to get into today in this video, so let's get right into things. So, folks, what do we think of this one? GRANIT XHAKA has agreed on verbal conditions to go to Sunderland. But yeah, as I said in the title, it does not look like Bayer Leverkusen are looking like letting them go without a fight. Fair enough, they've already had big players come out, but let's get into what happened, what's even happened so far in this transfer. David Ornstein from The Athletic, of course, anyone in the football kind of world will know who David Ornstein is. He's reported this morning that GRANIT XHAKA has said that he only wants to come to Sunderland, and that's after receiving some pretty big offers from Saudi Arabian clubs and other teams across Europe. But it seems like Sunderland owner Kirill Dreyfus was one of the main people that managed to get him to agree to come over to Sunderland. And the Sunderland project, the ambitious Sunderland project, as Fabrizio Romano likes to say. But yeah, Fabrizio then also followed that up with saying Bayer Leverkusen coach Eric Ten Hag has said the player of Xhaka can say what he wants, but this club has already let go of three important players this window, and we won't be letting go of any more. Granit is a leader and still has 3 years left in his contract here. And do you know what? You can absolutely see Bayer Leverkusen's point. When it comes to a player like Granit Xhaka, his leadership qualities, he's already shown that at Leverkusen when they went on to do what they did and win the league. Not only has he got those massive leadership qualities, but at his age at 32, he's not finished yet. He's got plenty of games still left in him. And a club like Bayer Leverkusen probably had him in their plans to use him for those 3 years as well. So when you're looking from a Bayer Leverkusen point, you can totally understand why they wouldn't want to let him go. But when it comes to Sunderland, what a signing this would be. Like, it's not even just in terms of the name, it's the Premier League experience he brings, it's the leadership qualities he brings. We got promoted from the Championship as the youngest squad in the league. We've then went on to sign a group of young, promising players who have looked great in pre-season, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. But when it comes to a player of GRANIT XHAKA, he's played at the top level of the Premier League already for a club like Arsenal, and his quality and experience, especially sitting just in front of that defensive line, is really kind of immeasurable. When we talk about players like Jordan Henderson and his link to the club, obviously throughout the summer, that one for me, yep, you take him for the dressing room aspect, but for me, didn't really offer much more than that. When it comes to GRANIT XHAKA, I think he's 100% still got at a much better playing level than Jordan Henderson would be, and he comes with all the same experience. And I think as well, just having a player again who's saying, "I want to come to Sunderland," that is one of the most important things. When you watch interviews of Xhaka, he has such high standards, and when we already see players like Luke O'Nien talking about Enzo Lefebvre coming in last year and him raising the standards, then you see what we've seen in pre-season with the way the players have played, the ones that we've signed. The standards have already been raised, and Xhaka, in non-polite terms, does not fuck about. So having a player of his quality coming in to lock in that midfield is really, it would be Sunderland's best signing of the window so far, in my opinion. Although obviously any of these players we've signed can go on to do amazing things, I think just the experience and the mentality he would bring into this squad is just kind of immeasurable. So yeah, this is a deal that I hope Sunderland really do get over the line, but we'll see. I think there's a little bit of fighting left to go in this one. We've seen when Xhaka moved on from Arsenal, we've seen that he kind of, once he says he's going, he is going, and that's the way he went with Arsenal as well. So kind of hope in some sense, that he has a similar sort of attitude with Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, if I was a fan of Bayer Leverkusen, I would hate to see this, and I would hate to see it being reported, because we have seen him do this with Arsenal as well. When he wants to leave, he does. So I think from a Sunderland perspective, that's exciting, and having a player say that they want to come to Sunderland so badly, yeah, that's a player for me. So we'll see what happens. I think Leverkusen are going to put up a fight, and in terms of his contract and still having 3 years left in that contract, it leaves me wondering what sort of fee Sunderland will pay, because as we'll get on to in this next player with Armand Lauriente, Sunderland won't overpay. They're going to come to the Premier League and they're going to spend money, but they're not going to spend money on players that aren't going to work. So I think Sunderland driving so hard for this player, and KLD and Speakman and that lot pushing so hard to get him over the line, they see all the qualities in him, And for me, I've got every bit of faith when it comes to the Sunderland recruitment team. So hopefully we'll be seeing Granit Xhaka in red and white stripes very soon. But for now, it looks like there's a little bit of a fight left to go with Bayer Leverkusen in terms of getting this deal done. Moving on to Armand Lauriente. Now, this Sassuolo winger was on his way to Sunderland. It seemed like this deal was dead and buried. It was done. It was ready to go, signed, sealed, delivered. But then it's fell through, and it's a bit of a strange one when it comes to Sunderland's transfers so far. So you're talking about a player who flew out on a private jet from Italy to join the Sunderland squad in Portugal. It was reported that the deal was ready to go, signed, sealed, delivered. And then we get a little bit of Sunderland news when it comes to Romain Mundo. So Romain Mundo and Armand Lauriente would be fighting for the same left wing position. But news comes that Romain Mundo is now going to be out for goodness knows how long because he's just had surgery. So it's then reported that Armand Lauriente is on his way to Sunderland, and then yeah, I wake up the other morning and see that it's fallen through. So a bit of a strange one. It's kind of rumoured online that potentially that Lauriente's team, once they've got to Portugal to join the Sunderland camp and sign the official papers and do the medical, it's reported that then they then ask for more money. Whether that's to do with Romain Mundo's situation because he's going to be out for a few weeks, maybe they weren't expecting Lauriente to start so quickly, but it's reported that agents and team on his side have then went to Portugal and asked for more. Both Sunderland and Sassuolo thought the deal was done. So when Lauriente's team and him showed up in Portugal, asked for more money, Sunderland have just completely backed off from the deal. I think that is not the kind of people they want to be dealing with. And when you talk about the kind of mentality of players and how we just spoke about Granit Xhaka and how he is and how Sunderland are still driving towards him because of the mentality of the player, they are not looking at someone who's going to see these opportunities to just take that little bit more. And that's not to say that that's exactly what happened. There's only really speculation we can go on from this point because nothing's really been confirmed by the club. But it is reported in the media that both Sassuolo and Sunderland are fairly pissed off with the situation. So yeah, a bit of a strange one. I was liking the look of this player as well. So it's a bit of a sad one that's fallen through. But we've seen this before with Sunderland where deals that seem signed, like that seem like they're already done, then fall through, and then Sunderland pivot onto other players. So whether they see this as an opportunity that once he's asked for more money, they go, right, cool, we're going to go for this other target that we've got instead. I'm not sure. We're not 100% sure, but it's an unusual one with Sunderland seeming so convicting in the transfer market and seeming to get every deal done. It's unusual from Sunderland at this point in time, like in this transfer window, to see a deal fall through like that. But if the club feels it's right, then we'll go with it and see what happens. But hopefully we get a little bit more clarity on that one in the future. Moving on to pre-season. So in the last week, Sunderland have then went on to play Sevilla and Sporting Lisbon. We started off with Sevilla with a 1-each draw. Now, I watched a lot of this game. We looked so convincing. That first half team that we put out, which is looks like it would be basically Sunderland's starting team. We've started with that one twice. That midfield three of Diarra, Siddiqui and Enzo Lefebvre already looks fluid, already looks dangerous. And that's for three players who have just joined up with each other. I really like the look of that one. And obviously, as you guys know, when I say this, this is me talking just on our players and what we've got. We've not even kicked off in the Premier League yet. I get that. But from a Sunderland point of view, seeing those three players gel so quickly is nothing but exciting. I think Siddiqui covered every single blade of grass in that first 45, and that is a Sunderland player. I think he is going to fit in right. He is going to fit right in here. And we said that in the last video after already watching these interviews and stuff, and how he loves the tackle. But I think just seeing someone who's showed up so ready to go, especially in games where you're trying to find fitness. So this is a guy who we're using the preseason to get fit, to get sharp, and he's already looking fit and sharp. So that's really exciting. I'm excited to see how he goes. I've seen a lot of comparisons to him and N'Golo Kante, and if he's half the player of N'Golo Kante, then we're on to a winner. So let's just see how that one goes. And I think as well, probably the most impressive of the signings so far has probably been Habib Diarra. So yeah, I think the three of them working together, this is where the Granit Xhaka signing comes into play, because of course if he signs, one of those players is going to not be starting. And when I look at the three of them, you're probably going to have to assume it's Siddiqui because where Xhaka would play, like just in front of that defence, the deepest line of any of the midfielders. So yeah, maybe it's one of those ones where Xhaka starts the game, Siddiqui comes on, or they both just rotate throughout the year. Who knows how that one will be used yet? But you would assume that if the Xhaka one gets over the line, then it's probably going to be him and Siddiqui fighting out for that spot. That gets me onto something else I want to talk about. What is going on with Dan Neil? Because we've seen him play these second halves and the drop off between himself and the other players that are starting the first half. I don't know if that's a fitness thing. I don't know if we've just seen the level go up so much that it's kind of shown as differences in Dan's game. I'm not sure. And then I don't know if it's anything to do as well with the fact that we've already signed three central midfielders. We're then looking at signing Granit Xhaka. Is he questioning where he fits into this line? Because you've got players like Chris Rigg and stuff as well who would all somehow have to fit into this squad as well. So is that what we're seeing? Are we seeing that Dan's maybe becoming a little bit unmotivated because of all the signings we're making? Because for me, we're looking at it right now and he's not signed this new deal. And that always worries me when we take so long to get one of our own players over the line. Neither has Dennis Cirkin for that matter, and I'll be interested to see if this is just them ironing out the last of the details before they announce it. I'm not sure. Like when it comes to our players just now, are they looking towards players like Dan Neil, who if sold would go for 100% profit because he is an academy player? Are they looking at signing? Are they looking at players like Dan Neil and saying, "Well, look, if you don't want to be here, like you can move on. We're more than happy to let you go." And then just take the fee from that and try and sell someone, because I think when it comes to our homegrown players and these academy lads and players like Dan Neil and Pato and Chris Rigg, when it came to that squad and how they gelled together and how all of our players seem to acclimatise into being Sunderland players and representing in the city and getting involved in the culture of the city, Sunderland have done a really good job getting these players signed on that front. I've just realised, can you guys hear my dog snoring? He's just out a shot of the camera, like on the couch behind me, and I truly hope you can't hear him snoring the entire video. But yeah, back to what we're talking about. When it comes to players like Dan Neil, Chris Rigg, Anthony Patterson, I do worry when we talk about selling all of them, because I think when it comes to players acclimatising to being a Sunderland player and what it means to be a representative of this city, those guys have an impact on that. Dan Neil was a captain last year, and you see the kind of impact on this season's transfer window so far in the pre-season we're having. And I just worry about that situation because personally I'd keep Daniel. I know people talk about the drop off that we see between the first and second halves of these pre-season friendlies, but it's not as if it's just Daniel that changed and then things went badly. Like our whole back line was completely different. The whole team changed between the first half and the second half. So I think when it comes to Daniel, I would personally keep him, although all these signings are leading towards Sunderland making a hell of a good fight when it comes to staying in the Premier League next year, we've obviously got to be cautious of the fact that we may end up being a championship team as of next season again. That is, I mean, the last 6 teams that have tried it, that's what's happened. So I think keeping players like Dan Neil around for the future, because not only you can look at these signings two ways. You can say we're signing 5 or 6 players in my position. How am I ever going to find a way in? I've said it in the last video. I think signing these players and then being the first team players and our old first 11 becoming a majority of a second string, I think it gives all of those players a chance to acclimatise to the Premier League. I look at a player like Dan Neil and I say, you can be a Premier League player, but if we were to rely on him next season, it's the same as someone like Chris Rigg. We would never in a million years be able to stay up in the Premier League if we had to rely on the starting 11 of last season. And that is just a bit of a brutal, honest truth. So when it comes to signing players like Xhaka or Siddiqui or whoever it may be, who may be the starting players, it's only going to give players like Neil a chance to acclimatise. And then if Sunderland manage to survive, brilliant. You have serious competition to get your foot in the door. But if they don't survive, how many of these players would then stay with us into the Championship? So I don't know. I think that if you're a player like Dan Neil, there's many ways to be looking at it. But I would hope as a professional athlete, the captain of your club last season is a homegrown player, like playing for your boyhood club. I would hope that he would give a hell of a lot more of a fight to be in that starting team. So we'll see what happens. I think we've seen quite a big difference in quality between Siddiqui, Habib Diarra, and Enzo Lefebvre starting compared to the starting trio that we had last year, and that is just unfortunately the truth. So we'll see what happens with someone like Daniel, but you've got other players impressing in pre-season as well. Someone who was impressing would be Jensen Seal. I think it's just, I don't know if it's just because we've not seen him in so long. He's barely played in the Sunderland shirt since he got here. Of course, he had injuries and stuff, but he seems to be making a real case for himself. And it's just one of those things sometimes where players of his age, in the space of a couple of years, they just put on weight. They kind of fill into their man's body as opposed to like a boy's body, like a youth player's body. I don't know, like they seem to kind of they grow into being a guy and they're just bigger and stronger and more capable. And you look at someone like Jensen Seal, he was always a big lad, but he just seems physically sharp this preseason. He just seems more aware, like he's grown older, grown into the game, got a bit wiser. So yeah, someone like him, I think he's definitely going to be a hell of a lot more involved in the squad this year as he was to last year. And I'm looking forward to that. I think he's really done a fair job with pressing in this preseason so far. I think what's became obvious as well was Sunderland definitely do need to go for a goalkeeper. Anthony Patterson seems to be out for a niggle. Simon Moore will do a half decent job, but Blondie just had a howler. He had a howler in that sporting game. And I think losing 1-0 to Sporting Lisbon in a pre-season friendly is nothing to really moan about, but there's plenty and plenty to be excited about from the way the players in the team have played so far this pre-season. We can already see the step up they've taken and how the levels already raised at Sunderland. So yeah, that's all for today's video. Just quickly checking in, talking about everything that's been happening in the club this pre-season so far. I think when it comes to transfers, we definitely need to look at getting our defence sorted. I think the amount of signings we've made in forward positions has been amazing. It's been necessary. It's been what we've needed. But I think we need to now be looking at getting some centre backs in, because I would take getting Ronaldo at left back and that being the only full back signing. I would prefer having a right back as well, but centre back is definitely where we're at. We need to get our centre back sorted. And I think, as I've already said in the previous videos as well, Sunderland use the loan market every season. And I think that when it comes to centre backs in Premier League experience, I think we'll be looking at getting someone in, one or two players in on loan again, and saving maybe those permanent transfers for the future. But that is all I've got to say in today's video, guys. If you've liked today's video, then please like, subscribe. Just new around here, getting things going, kind of finding my confidence when it comes to speaking on YouTube. But I feel like we're getting a little bit better each video. Don't know. Let me know if you agree. What do you think of these transfer links? Who would you want to see at Sunderland this year? How do you think we're going to go? And as always, if you get a second, check out the southstandclothing.com. All Sunderland apparel, hats, fanwear, everything to get you sorted for next season. We're going to be here all year covering Sunderland. So subscribe. Happy the lads. Come on. See you in the next one. Bye.